Learn the most empowering hiring techniques. Land the most desirable talent. Launch your company towards massive success. This is the Higher Power Radio Show with your host, Rick Gerard.
All right, so Sarah thought that landing Walmart as a client was her company's big break. And it was until the chargebacks started rolling in. Wrong label placement, $3,000 gone. A slightly mispacked shipment, another $5,000 down the drain. Every mistake felt like death by 1,000 cuts. And Sarah's warehouse team, new hires coming in and going like a revolving door, couldn't keep up with the complex compliance rules each retailer demanded. Instead of focusing on growth, Sarah was struck playing defense and bleeding profit, retaining weekly staff meetings, and wondering how success had turned into a penalty nightmare. Now, if you've ever felt like Sarah, today's episode's for you. We're going to be showing you how to turn compliance chaos into accuracy, keep your team engaged, and leverage tech so that even low-skilled workforce performs like seasoned pros, saving you thousands and your sanity. I'm Rick Gerard, and welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show. We help entrepreneurs and business leaders win the strongest people. We do so by sharing insights from top-performing rebel entrepreneurs, game changers, and industry leaders like our guest today, Mr. Bill Drummer. Now, Bill is the CEO of GPA Logistics. Now, Bill is a longtime logistics operations manager. He's been running logistics operations for over 32 years. And he's serviced hundreds of companies and employed thousands of people, building his business on a strong leadership, technology adoption, and healthy workplace culture that fuels his long-term success. GPA Logistics was started in 2016. They started it from 70,000 square feet, and now today, in just under 10 years, he's over 2 million square feet, which is what makes Bill the expert, the perfect expert for today's topic. Bill, welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show.
Hi, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. All right, so this is kind of a fun topic because, you know, when you were telling me about chargebacks and the penalties of doing logistics, I mean, like tough business, right? But, you know, offline, we've been able to talk quite a bit. And I felt like one of the reasons why I really wanted to bring you on the show was because not only do you run a really strong operational ship, but you do a great job with your people too, in getting them trained quickly, but also making them feel like it's a place of home. So I want to dig into those couple things, and so let's talk about kind of like the biggest problem that you've kind of run into in building this business.
Well, our business depends on it's a service business. We're providing a service for our customers. Our customers are primarily importers and wholesalers and merchants of all different types of consumer products, particularly apparel, which is a very difficult product to manage and handle. And they ship to major retailers in the United States or direct to consumer. And in both cases, accuracy of order fulfillment is really, really critical. Just going back to what you started with as far as Walmart is concerned and Sarah, shipping to major retailers, they all have very, very precise and intricate, complex routing guides and instructions on how to ship to them. And if you don't follow those guidelines to the T exactly, what they do is they charge back their vendors. Their vendors are our customers. So if we have an apparel customer who's shipping and we're shipping on their behalf to Walmart and we do make a mistake in the shipment, Walmart charges back, which is a penalty to our customer. So and they deduct from their invoices. So and those penalties are really, really punitive. I mean, they could be thousands and thousands of dollars. So our challenge is perfect service, or as close to perfect service as possible, while utilizing what's essentially an unskilled workforce.
All right, so this is, that is a big challenge, right? Dealing with those compliance pressures. So talk to me a little bit about the accuracy component. I mean, um, how many, like, let's say you have an order that comes in, how many boxes are we talking about? And then, um, what can go wrong there, right? Like,
So orders. Let's take the orders to retailers. Orders to retailers will be thousands and thousands of boxes. I mean, we're talking Walmart, Kohl's, Target, all Home Depot, all the big guys.
yeah.
We'll ship trailer loads and trailer loads, so it'll be thousands and thousands of boxes. Every one of those cartons have to be packed properly with the right exact amount of goods in them and the right makeup of goods in them. They have to be labeled according to their very strict instructions with the right labels, the right barcodes, and their label placement exactly on the right place on the carton. And those pallets that we ship out have to be built specifically to their requirements as well. And any mistake, like I said, is going to cause a chargeback to our customers, which obviously is something we want to avoid. So there's a lot that goes into preparing these shipments. There's a lot of detail, and like I said, it has to be done by multiple people within our warehouses, and they all have to do their job properly. So there's a lot of information that has to be brought down to them, and a lot of guidelines that they have to follow.
So if you're looking at like a label placement, right? For example,
Mhm.
like if I'm shipping to Kohl's, is that different in label placement to like, Walmart?
They all have different requirements. They all have different
So there's no
directions.
standardization.
There's no standardization. As a matter of fact, I think sometimes they go out of their way to do one different than the other just to make things difficult. But yeah, they're all different. They're all different.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Are you listening to the Higher Power Radio Show? For our podcast listeners, we're going to take a quick educational moment from our sponsors. And I'm digging in deeper with our guest, Bill Drummer. He's the CEO and co-founder of GPA Logistics Group. And we're talking about, essentially the logistics business in dealing with kind of compliance pressures along with, a low skilled workforce and making sure that you're maintaining accuracy. So you've come up with a pretty solid solution on how you're tackling, like, your system that you have within your business on how you tackle these and make sure that you're assuring that your customers don't get these chargebacks, right? So like where do you start with this?
So, I mean, there's two things that we have to really concentrate on. Is one is procedures, but the other one is technology. The nerve center of our business is our warehouse management system, our software that directs all the orders and everything that's going through the warehouse. So we need to have a really strong warehouse management system, and we've been through a few because as the years go by, they get upgraded and they get better. But still, we're a mid-level 3PL. We're not. There are bigger ones. I mean, there's some huge ones, and they have technology that we can't touch. So that's been a challenge for us. But lately, with the advent of AI, we found AI to be a great equalizer for us. We've been started using AI in our company to enhance our WMS, our warehouse management system. And just going back to what you said, I can give you an example about how.
Yeah, let's talk about AI because, there's still a lot of people that are afraid of AI. It's going to take over the world, right? But I found it to be extremely helpful in a lot of the day-to-day operations of the business. Like, just those tasks that eat up a lot of time but don't have a lot of value, right?
Well, we use it to supplement, like what we said before. I mean,
Yeah.
our workforce is low skilled. There is some turnover, so we really need technology to drive what happens in the warehouse. So going back to the example of shipping, for instance, to Walmart or to Kohl's or to them, we have an AI program called Retailer Hub AI, which puts all the guidelines for all the different retailers literally at the fingertips of every one of my employees. It takes in all the information from all the different retailers and creates a chatbot that they can ask at any point, at any time, where do I put the label? How big do I build the pallet? What do I do for Macy's? What do I do for Kohl's? And they get an answer right away on the spot. And
Does it actually show them where on the box it goes and how to actually?
Yeah, what it does is, in addition to their answer, it also shows them from the PDF, from the retailer guidelines, the exact wording and placement and pictures that are in the retailer's guidelines. So instead of going through a 300-page booklet trying to find what you need, Just type in your question, it comes right back to you and shows you this source information also. It's been a huge game changer for us, and it's been a fantastic addition to what we do.
Now, how are you using AI at the leadership level?
We use it for business intelligence. For us also, again, well, we're a service business, but we have to keep, labor is a huge expense for us. We have to track our KPIs. We have to track our labor. We have to track how much time we're spending on every particular function that we do and every service we do, and are we priced properly? So there is business intelligence software, but if you supplement it with AI, you get much better data.
Yeah. Well, you're also using it in your hiring process as well. I think you had shared with me a little bit ago, like you guys you've experienced very little attrition over the past year, which I think you attribute to, one, having a really strong culture that people align with, but two, you're kind of making it really easy for people to be successful, right? Like you've spent a lot of time on that people strategy.
Yeah, well, again, people are very important. They are.
For sure.
And so there's a few things you want to do with your staff. You want to make sure, first of all, you hire the right people. So like you said, utilizing the right AI and the right sourcing for an interviewing process makes a huge difference. You don't want to make a mistake and hire the wrong person. It's very expensive to do that. And you want people that fit into your company culture, which is important too, because companies do have a culture. So
yeah.
you want to make sure before you hire someone, even if they could be a top performer, that they are the right fit for your culture. And we've done that as well. I mean, you want to make sure that A, people obviously paid fairly, B, that they're comfortable where they're working, and C, you want to make sure that they feel that they're contributing and that their work has value and it means something. So those three factors really make a big difference, and it's led to employee retention as far as we're concerned.
Can we talk a little bit more about your procedures and management? I mean, like you and I talked offline a little bit about like the simplifying the workflow. So, essentially what you're doing is you're just making it really easy for people to do their jobs effectively, right? So when somebody starts who's new, I join your company. I'm like, hey, look at you put me on the line, and what do I do? Like, how are you making sure that I'm going to be successful?
First, we'll pair you up with someone who's already experienced in whatever job function you're supposed to do. And so they mentor you. We try to make sure that you understand very, very clearly what is expected of you and what are the proper procedures and steps to take to perform your job properly. And then you are released to start working independently once your mentor says you're good to go. But making sure employees understand what's expected of them and giving them clear instructions on how to do their job is important. And really important is to give them the tools they need to do their job. When you ask an employee to do something and you don't give them what they need to do the job, they just become resentful, and they obviously are not going to be successful.
Yeah. Now, you're actually drilling down to giving everybody KPIs, though, right?
Yeah, we have meetings with our managers and mid-level managers on a weekly basis. We go over what happened the past week. We go over our KPIs. We actually do a revenue P&L, and we show them where they're succeeding, where they might not be succeeding, where they need to improve, and what benchmarks they should be hitting. And if they can't hit those benchmarks, we ask them why and see if there's a problem that needs to be solved.
Got it. Okay, so this next thing I want to spend a little bit of time on, because I think that this is the main reason why companies don't retain great people, right? So you're a strong believer on growing from within, right? You like to bring people and let them provide them a career path. So talk to me a little bit about that.
We like all of my managers are tasked with identifying talent. If you find someone who has skill and has talent and has some ambition, we definitely want to mentor that person. We want that person to grow within the company, because you get better performance from someone who has grown within the company, feels a loyalty and a dedication to the company, and they appreciate the fact you've given them the chance to grow. We've had, just a quick example, we've had a young woman who started with us as a clerk, moved up to a customer service position. We found out that she actually is studying IT in college, moved her into our IT department, and she's worked her way up to a senior manager position already, and all within 3 years, because we identified someone who had talent, who had skill, who had ambition, and gave her the opportunity to continue to advance. It's been good for her and good for us.
Yeah, and I think the important thing here is that you're having these conversations with people, right?
Mhm.
Because I think that's where a lot of us drop the ball. Is that you got somebody in, they're doing great work somewhere, and you're like, well, I don't want to lose them in this role. Um, that's a common fear that I see with a lot of entrepreneurs. Is like, hey, you know what? Joe's crushing it in this role. I want Joe to stay there because everything's smooth over there, right? But then Joe's gonna if Joe wants to grow, he's gonna go find it somewhere else if you don't provide it to him.
Exactly. So there's that temptation to say Joe's doing great. Why would I want to mess with it? But like you said, you don't want Joe to leave. That's even worse. So that's why we tell our staff, our managers, identify talent, and we explain to them, if you want to move up in your position, you need to find someone to replace you. Train someone. Don't be scared. They're not going to take your job. They're going to allow you to advance. It's hard to get that point through to some people. Some people just are very worried about it, but we try to make them understand it's to their own benefit.
But that's great coaching because I find with most mid-level managers, there is that fear that somebody's going to take my job and I'm going to be out of a job,
Mhm.
right? So, how do you how have you been able to convey to people or get them past that hurdle that hey, look at that this isn't the way for you to manage your career, right? What if I love being a midline manager and I don't want to go any farther?
If you don't want to, you don't have to. We always ask. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
not going to tell you you're promoted whether you like it or not.
yeah,
But otherwise, how do we show this to people? We show them people in the company who have advanced. We show them, look, this guy started at this position. Look where he is now. Talk to him.
yeah.
He'll tell you how he advanced. That's the best way to convince them, is show them other people in the company who have taken that path.
What about training? Like if you move somebody to a manager, what do you do with them?
Same thing. We have someone mentor them. We make sure that they understand what that means now to move to a manager position. It's not always an easy switch for someone who could be a great employee doing a great job, and suddenly you're a manager and you have to look at things with a different perspective. And it's not a guarantee of success, but we talk to the person first. We have to make sure they understand what we're expecting, what we think they should be doing. And then, like I said, we mentor them. We hold their hand until we're ready to let go. But at a certain point, obviously, we let go, and then they have to perform.
Yeah. It's funny is as a headhunter in my last life, right? One of the things that I would capitalize on when I was recruiting people was the biggest complaint that I got from people was never really about the money, although that might be an aspect of why they might move jobs. But it was almost always growth path or leadership, management issues or leadership, or just the fact that they didn't feel that the company would invest in them to move forward, right? And so all I had to do was be able to kind of demonstrate that my opportunity could provide those opportunities for them. Um, and I think that that's an area where a lot of, again, managers and entrepreneurs just don't really focus in on. They kind of think everything's great, you know,
There's
they
there's
don't
there's
wanna.
there's offering opportunity, but there's also showing appreciation.
Yeah,
I'll give you an example. For instance, if you have a guy whose job it is to clean the bathroom every day, which is not a fun job, and in the morning you tell him go clean the bathroom, and at the end of the day he goes home, and that's the end of it. He goes home and he's not happy about him cleaning the bathroom every day. But if in the morning you say to him, "Good morning, how you doing? Can you do me a favor? Can you just clean these bathrooms today?" And at the end of the day you say, "Thank you, good job." He'll come back tomorrow with a much happier attitude and clean your bathroom all over again. Just show appreciation, show that you know who they are, and to respect them. You got to respect everybody, from the janitor down to general manager. Everyone deserves respect if they come to work and put a full day work in.
that is such a great point. And what's interesting is that people kind of discount the janitor, right? Like they think, well, it's just a janitor. That person is just as important to the culture and fitting with the core values of the business as the CEO of the company, right?
If I have a customer come down to see the warehouse and the floors are dirty and the bathrooms are dirty, I'm not going to get that customer. If the janitor didn't do his job, I'm not going to get a customer for that reason. Yes, everyone's important. Everyone's important.
So very true. And the other thing is when the janitor knows that, hey, we've got a big customer coming, there's pride there. Like, it's they feel like they're part of the tribe, right? And so when you find your tribe, you want to do right by your tribe, right? So, awesome. So, what would be 2 or 3 key takeaways you can give the audience that can plug into their business today?
Well, obviously, like we just said, you have to invest in your people. You have to have the right people. You have to have the right people. Get the right people, right culture. We touched on technology. Technology is really important these days. It really supplements what your people are doing. It's very hard to properly staff a company and have them do everything just the old-fashioned way, which is having people do their jobs by themselves. They need the technology to support them. And frankly, as the CEO, myself and my partner Brian Cantrell, the president, we always understand that our main job, our focus, is give all of our employees what they need to be able to do their jobs. That's what we concentrate on. Give them the tools and what they need so they can perform and excel.
So you're eliminating the roadblocks for them.
Then if they don't, then they don't have any excuse. So if you give them the tools and you give them everything they need, and they don't excel, then you're perfectly legitimate. It's perfectly legitimate to say, I'm sorry, you're not doing your job. But otherwise, you can't come to them with complaints if you didn't give them what they need.
Very, very true. Bill, thanks so much for your time and investment today, and I want to welcome you to the Higher Power Radio community. Now, what would be the best way in which members of the audience can find you, find GPA Logistics, all that good stuff?
GPA Logistics Group is www.gpalogisticsgroup.com. I'm Bill Drummer, just no dots, no periods, Bill Drummer at gpalogisticsgroup.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. Thank you so much again. So I want to thank you for tuning in this week's episode of Higher Power Radio. Quick thanks to our team, Brian Colburn, Andrea Ballin, and Ayla Gerard. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, review, and share. After all, this show's for you, and we want to continue to bring you valuable content week after week. You can check us out further at Hire, H-I-R-E, Power, P-O-W-E-R, radio, R-A-D-I-O.com, or you can drop me an email at rick@intertru, intertru.ai. I'm your host, Rick Gerard, and you have been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha.
Thank you for listening to Higher Power Radio. Catch our LinkedIn Live show every Tuesday at noon, or download the podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you joining us on Higher Power Radio with your guide to hiring success, Rick Gerard.